And good evening, Middle Tennessee, and welcome to another flash weather briefing valid for March 8th, 2017. I am your host, amateur meteorologist, and certified weather weenie, Cameron Fry. As you can see, we are in winter storm alert mode for only the second time all winter. In fact, we're not even in winter, technically. We're in meteorological spring. So as many of you are getting ready to make spring break plans, we have to talk about a winter storm. So as we do with these briefing videos, we'll take a look at the teleconnections to see if we can make sense of the current pattern. We'll start with the Arctic Oscillation, and we see right now we're currently in a neutral phase, though we go quickly positive as we approach mid-March, which is interesting as a positive AO doesn't normally promote cold air invasions into the southeast. Here's just a deterministic view of the same graphic we just looked at. You can see the AO has been mostly positive this winter, which is one of the reasons why we've had little cold to work with. However, even with a neutral AO, other teleconnections can step up and deliver the cold air we need to have a good snowstorm. We'll take a look at the North Atlantic Oscillation, and we see something similar to the Arctic Oscillation in the sense that we are hugging the neutral line with a flex to positive territory push mid-month. But as just mentioned, we could work with a neutral NAO. It just means that there's not a whole lot of Atlantic blocking to work with, but still there are other delivery mechanisms for cold into our part of the country. The PNA, the Pacific North American Oscillation, we are currently in negative territory, but you can see how that spikes to positive territory by mid-month, and that's something you want to see, as a positive PNA usually correlates to ridging in the west, troughing in the east. So when you look at the NAO, the AO, and the PNA, you wouldn't think we would have a snowstorm on our hands by those teleconnections alone. So certainly there must be something else that's influencing the weather pattern we're in. Let's look at the EPO, the Eastern Pacific Oscillation. We note it's currently negative, but it's about to skyrocket into positive territory mid-month. So we're about to approach that in-between stage. But if you're a winter/snow lover in Tennessee, you want to see the EPO negative. Even though it's different from the PNA, it still promotes western ridging. It promotes a favorable access for cold to be funneled in our direction. So we want to see that EPO negative for the time being, and we have that. So how can we score cold in this type of pattern? Well, if we look at a Eurographic from 2 days ago that's valid for Saturday night, we note a couple interesting features. We note the Omega Ridge off the Gulf of Alaska, that area of above average heights. And then below that, we see the upper low, where that's essentially our positive EPO. What's interesting about this feature is how it interacts with the ridge pumping up in the west. That ridge, as you can see, splits this area below normal heights, so the upper low retrogrades and allows that second area of below normal heights to dig a trough into the eastern conus. Let's look at some 2-meter temperature, shall we? This is coming off the 12Z GFS ensembles, and a lot of these maps I'm about to show you, they're valid about 6 p.m. Saturday night. So that's the time frame we're looking at. Saturday afternoon, evening, and overnight into early Sunday morning. And you can see Nashville is right on that freezing line. Shocker, I know. And as we approach midnight, we see the temperature doesn't fluctuate that much, but it still drops to about 30. That's still favorable for wintry precip at the surface. Now, this should be in the form of mostly snow if these temps are correct. However, when we look at a skew-T plot, which shows us a vertical profile of the atmosphere, we will note that as the event starts, there might be some mixing involved. How long that mixing takes place will determine how much snow we actually end up with. So while temperatures will be above freezing when the precip initially moves in due to evaporative cooling, that temperature should fall throughout the afternoon and evening hours and switch over from rain to sleet to primarily snow. Taking a look at the Euro for the same time frame, we note similar temperature profiles for our area, conducive for wintry precipitation. We also note that 1008 low off the coast of Louisiana. It'll be interesting to note how well that energy phases with the wave diving down from the northwest. All right, I'm going to walk you through the 18Z GFS animation through next Tuesday. And we see our calm before the storm, that 1025 high going off the coast. We see our lead wave in advance of the stronger wave behind it, bringing us some rain showers on Friday. No wintry precipitation with that, but that does allow the trough to dig. It starts the process of pulling down the colder air. We see snow invading parts of Iowa and Missouri. By the time the precip shield arrives in Middle Tennessee, it may start out a brief period of light rain and mixed precipitation, but it quickly goes to snow. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw 6 to 8 hours of snowfall. As a new low emerges off the Georgia-South Carolina coast, it interacts with colder air, bringing snow and mixed precipitation to the outer banks of North Carolina. Also, if you go back and reloop the animation, if you look at the top right-hand portion of the screen, it's off-screen technically, but you could see evidence of a 50-50 low. These lows near Newfoundland provide backup blocking in the case of a neutral or positive NAO, which again allows cold air to establish itself further south. All right, let's look at some snow accumulation maps. Now, before I continue, let me just say that these maps don't represent a forecast. They represent data output. They represent model guidance. So take all of these total accumulated snowfall maps with not just a grain of salt, with mounds of salt. We'll start with the 12Z GFS valid for 7 a.m. Sunday morning to account for daylight savings. And we see how all of Tennessee gets in on the action here. Very impressive. The slug of moisture actually favoring southern Middle Tennessee as opposed to northern Tennessee. The GFS ensembles show something very similar. Granted, this is for a range that takes us from today through next Thursday, but a lot of this snow, at least for our area, is coming with this batch late Saturday. So it's a positive sign to see agreement between the GFS member by itself along with its ensemble members. And speaking of ensemble members, let's take a look at all the various outcomes we get with this approaching storm. And we see a lot of the members bring accumulating snowfall into the picture. Of course, the big question is how much, and it's really too early to answer that, but right now we're looking for answers to the question, will it snow? And it certainly looks that with each run, confidence is increasing. Let's look at the Euro and see how it contrasts with the GFS, and we see something that's, I think, more realistic. I'm on Team Euro if I had to pick one particular model at this point. Reason being is I think the Euro lines up with the thermodynamics a little better. As we approach the Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia border counties, I have an issue with the 850 temps, which could impact the rate of dynamic cooling, which can ultimately cut down snow totals for those locations. I think areas north of I-40 at this point, and of course the favorable areas on the northern plateau, will see the most snow potential with this system, though again, this is tentative. I'm just speaking from experience, from analogs, and from what a blend of the models are showing at this point. However, the Euro QPF type is very encouraging if you love snow. Maybe more sleet and mixed precip, again, on those border counties as mentioned. But again, we can see for most of Middle Tennessee, the primary precip type, Saturday night, early Sunday, will be snow. Taking a look at the Euro ensembles, like the GFS ensembles, we see most of the members bringing snow into the picture. As far as the main precip axis and how much, that varies as you can see. But if we're looking at the amount of support among the ensemble members, we find the vast majority of them suggest accumulating snowfall for our area. Looking at the Canadian, we see what I consider the least likely outcome. Huge snow totals in the plateau counties in East Tennessee. I really don't think Chattanooga sees over a half foot of snow, to be honest. So I think the amounts are a little overdone. And really the Canadian has been the furthest south of all the models. And it could be onto something, but I just don't buy that solution at the time. In some ways, the Canadian is like the reverse NAM with respect to its biases. For instance, the Canadian model can be too cold and too weak with the energy, whereas the NAM, as you see here, it's the opposite, too warm and too strong with the energy. The NAM is not impressed with snow from Middle Tennessee, and a big reason for that is its warm bias and its emphasis on sleet and mixed precipitation being the main precip type. With the 850 and surface temperatures too warm, the effects of dynamic cooling aren't able to transition rain to sleet and snow as fast enough. But I think that we could dismiss the NAM at this point since it's an outlier. So in review, trends are favorable for more snow for most of Middle Tennessee. How much snow is still very much up in the air. However, when we talk about the different ingredients coming together, we see many positive signs. We have ridging out west. We have ideal 500 millibar features like the 50-50 low in southeastern Canada, which can act as a blocking mechanism even in the presence of a positive NAO. We have strong dynamic cooling potential. We have the possibility of a weaker wave, which, believe it or not, allows the track to bring more snow to Tennessee than Kentucky. And perhaps more importantly, we have a tremendous amount of cold air bottled up in Canada that's about to be unleashed. I mean, going back to some of the earlier maps we looked at, you can see bitterly cold temps near the Dakota-Canadian border, minus 25, minus 30. That's cold by January standards, and we're approaching mid-March. In fact, the RGM model shows a 1052 high pressure system. If you look historically at some of the most impressive snow events from Middle Tennessee, a lot of them had Canadian highs of 1050 or more, help advancing that cold air further south. Preliminary predictions. I'm going to go with 2 to 4 inches, with 1 to 3 inches sticking north of I-40 with locally higher amounts near the Kentucky border, northern Plateau counties. Those are our favorable locations in any snow event. 1 to 2 inches with less than 1 inch sticking south of I-40 with locally higher mountain upper terrain, 1,000 feet. Perhaps more of a dusting / mixed precip bag for our Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia border counties. Again, the reason being more mixing warm surface temps, 850 temp issues might delay that changeover from rain, sleet to snow. Regardless of how much snow, or even if it snows on Saturday, one thing's for certain, that is below normal temperatures next week. Anywho, I hope you've enjoyed this flash weather briefing. In case you aren't following me on Facebook, you could find me at Flash Weather for daily and weekly weather updates, exclusive for Middle Tennessee. Stay tuned for future updates as I seek to keep you ahead of the storm. Till then, have a great Wednesday night, and God bless.